Hey guys, welcome back to my channel, and today we're going to talk about tips on how to take chapters out of your book that aren't needed. Let's get started. So the first tip, do your chapters push your protagonist to reach their goal? So if one of your character's goal is to harness this power to stop this big bad villain, does your chapter effectively do that? Does your chapter push them into the action scene or to the dialogue that they need in order to get to harnessing that power that's going to stop the big bad guy? Or does the chapter help little Johnny get to that Christmas present that he lost years ago? Or is it just simply you putting a lot of detail in that we already got in the first chapter? So you always have to be mindful of whatever you're putting in your chapter. Is it helping the characters go towards the end goal? Or is it just, prolonging it? Or is there too much dialogue? Is there too many elaborate sentences? So that's the first tip. Be mindful of what you're putting in order that it helps your character get to that end goal that the whole story is about. The second tip, can I merge my chapters together? This is always like one of the biggest things that you can do in order to take 50 chapters to like 45 chapters or 40 chapters, because I know that in my editation of my fictional book, I had 2 chapters where my test readers were like, okay, Octavia, these are kind of like the same thing. I'm feeling like it's the same vibe. You have the same characters. They're in the same setting as they were in the first chapter. It's the same place, the same theme, the same purpose. So why do we have, 2 chapters prolonging what's already happening? So what I did was I took some time out. I sat down and I reread those 2 chapters. And then I actually did understand what they were talking about, because the 2 chapters were similar. So I decided to take chapter 1, take chapter 2, and I put them together. I took out all the pertinent information, all the relevant information, throughout the dialogue that didn't help, throughout the scenery and details that didn't help, and I merged those 2 chapters together, taking 2 and making it to 1. And this is something you can do, but you also have to be delicate in how you do it. You shouldn't just go around merging every single chapter that you think needs to be merged, because then you can take out relevant information, and you don't want to take anything out that is going to help your story move along. So you can merge your chapters if that'll help bring down chapters by taking out irrelevant information or too much detail in your stories. And tip number 3, sometimes you just need to chuck some chapters out. Some chapters, they just have to go. And I know this is like, oh no, I don't want to get rid of anything important. But sometimes a whole chapter could not be relevant by any means at all to your story. Because sometimes in a whole chapter, some authors have the tendency to just add more detail because they think that's what the story needs. But for example, if little Johnny is looking for his Christmas present, and we already have an idea of what that Christmas present is, let's say it's a red hot sports colored made bike that he got on Christmas, and we already know what it looks like. We already know that the horn quacks like a little duck, because we've already been told about that beautiful, lovely sports bike that he got when he opened it up on Christmas Day, and it was like, wow, this is great. We already got that in the first chapter. So why in chapter 17 do we need to go back and get the detail of what the bike looks like? We don't need that information. And sometimes there's just too much extra detail, too much redundancy in some chapters that we just have to get rid of. So yes, sometimes it is necessary to get rid of an entire chapter because it doesn't cause your story to flow. And the point of writing a book, fiction, writing anything really, is to tell a story. And the story becomes choppy when we have detail upon detail upon detail about something that's already been told about. So those are the 3 tips that can help you take out some chapters and to make your book more concise and more pertinent and have a better flow than it already does. So comment below if you have any other tips on how to condense your chapters in your fictional books, and I'm sure you guys out there will love to have more tips too. So thank you guys for watching. Goodness and love.